Hi friends, it's Mr. Alex from Adams Memorial Library, and I'm here for our first Art Attack project of the summer. So if you have our Art Attack kit designed for friends who are 11 and up, then you are definitely going to want to go in there to get the supplies to make our very own sand shape art. Now, if you don't have a kit already, you can come here to the library, either at the children's room desk or our curbside pickup, while supplies last, to get a kit of your own that will last all summer long. And if you can't make it into the library, that's okay too, because you can always follow along with supplies at home. So let me show you what we'll need for this week's project, and we'll get started. In order to make this Art Attack art project, we are going to need just a few things from our Art Attack kit and from home. Obviously, we're going to need our canvas. We're going to need our sheet of blue cardstock, and I've already trimmed mine down to be the same size as the canvas. You're going to need your template for your sand shape. I picked the seahorse and cut that out as well. You'll need your sand, some glue, a pencil to trace, some scissors to cut our pattern out, and a paintbrush. Now, the paintbrush that you pick, especially if you're using one from home, should not be your favorite paintbrush because it will basically get ruined doing this project. So if you have a cheaper paintbrush or something that you're okay with throwing away, I would definitely pick that. Then, optionally, you're going to need a bin or a box or something else that we can pour our sand over our canvas with, because sand does tend to get everywhere. So I like to keep it contained in a bin like this. And then if you have permission from an adult at home and have a craft knife or a box cutter, that can make cutting out your sand shape a little bit easier. And hairspray will help us seal it off at the end. But again, for safety reasons, we couldn't include this in your kit, and we definitely recommend that you do this with the help of an adult at home. So let's gather all of that up and we'll get started. The first step in making our sand art project is that we are going to prepare our cardstock. And in order to do that, we're going to do just a few things. We're going to take our pattern for our sand shape, place it in about the middle, and trace around it. Then we're going to go ahead and take our scissors, and if we're using a craft knife or box cutter, again with adult supervision and permission, then we're going to use those to cut out our shape as well. Now, I do have this piece of cardboard down because when we use a craft knife or something like this, it will cut through more than just the paper sometimes, and we definitely don't want to cut into our tablecloth or table. So I have this cardboard down for protection as we trace and cut out our sand shape. And once we've got our entire sand shape cut out of the center of our cardstock, we are ready to move on to the next step of our project. Now, as you may have noticed as you cut, and definitely as you watched me cut, there are parts of this that are sort of challenging to cut out, so it might be better to do it in pieces. And there are also parts like this little bit here that are sort of fragile and small and delicate, so you definitely want to be careful as you're applying those to your project. Now, our next step is to take our piece of cardstock and apply it to our canvas. So there are a couple of different ways that you can do this. Since this side has pencil marks, I'm actually going to glue that face down to my canvas, just like this. But if you like the way your design looked, maybe for instance I want my seahorse facing this way, then I might choose to glue it down with the pencil up. And if I do that, then I will just take my eraser and gently erase around the edges of my cardstock. But we're going to go ahead, we're going to place our cardstock how we like it onto our canvas. We're going to take our glue and we're going to take our brush, and then we're just going to, on the back side of the cardstock, apply a nice even layer of glue. Again, you want it to be heavy enough that it doesn't just dry immediately by the time you're done painting the back of your art project with the glue, but you also don't want it to be so thick and heavy that it makes a sort of mess as it attaches to your canvas. So let's go ahead and glue our cardstock on now. Up next, once we have our layer of glue applied, we are just going to flip it over and line it up with the edges of our canvas and apply a delicate but even pressure to all of our pieces so that way the glue will set. Now, as you do this and you let your canvas with the piece of cardstock on it dry, you may notice that there are parts that peel up a little bit or don't stick quite as well, and you can always take your paintbrush and reapply some glue onto those pieces. For instance, I can see that this edge right here is definitely going to need some more glue. But for right now, I have very gently applied my cardstock to the front of my canvas, just like that. And I'm going to go ahead and let that dry before we move on to the next step of our project. Now that our canvas with our piece of cardstock has dried, the next step is going to be to take our glue brush and we're going to go ahead and apply another layer of glue. This time, we're going to apply it inside the cutout right onto our canvas. And this layer, we actually don't mind if we have a little bit of extra glue. Again, we don't want to completely soak through the canvas, but this is going to be the glue that is going to hold our sand on. So the more glue, the better. And this is going to be pretty hard to see on camera, but now I've covered the entire canvas section of my cutout in glue. And I was doing this as I was adding the glue, but if you were not, you may want to look for any spaces that you need to touch up with glue, because anywhere there's not glue, obviously sand is not going to stick. Similarly, if any of your glue spills over onto the cardstock part of your canvas, you will definitely want to take either your finger or a paper towel and wipe that off. So right now I'm just touching up a few spots that look like they could use some extra glue, and we're going to get to the fun but very messy part of this Art Attack project. So I have my bin, I have a cup that I grabbed from the kitchen, and I have my canvas. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to take my canvas and cups of sand and pour it onto the top of the canvas. And as I do that, some of the sand will fall into the bin, and hopefully most of the sand will stick to the canvas. So let's go ahead and do that now. And again, you can be pretty liberal about how you pour your sand. I like to pour it like this, just over the top of the entire project, because again, anywhere that there's not glue, the sand won't stick. So it'll just pour right off into our bin. And once I've covered my entire sand shape, again, I picked the seahorse, with a lot of sand, just like this, we're going to take and lift the canvas and let that sand fall off. And we can tap it a few times to really make sure we got everything. And we should be left with something that looks like this. Now, if you are someone like me who wants to fill in every single one of those blank spaces, you can. And this is the part where I said you might not want to pick your best paintbrush. So as you can see, there are lots of places on my canvas where the sand is very uneven. We have a really high point here, and we have some white space where there is no sand. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my canvas over my bin, and I'm just going to gently brush off any sand that is sticking up in an area that I don't want it to. And this may brush some of your sand off of your glue, but that's okay, because again, as long as you don't mind ruining your paintbrush, I'm going to show you how you can fix that. So once we've taken off any excess sand that didn't come off when we tapped our canvas in the bin, now we're left with something that looks like this. And if this is a brush that we don't mind ruining and throwing away after, we can take additional glue and apply it to where these white spots are. And the reason I say we are going to have to ruin our brush is, as you can already see, the sand and the glue stick to everything. It's just going to sort of become one big soupy mess. So anywhere that you re-add glue, it's going to stick to the canvas, it's going to stick to your brush, it's going to stick to anything else that you have that it comes in contact with. So you definitely want to make sure that you're not planning on using this brush for painting after, because, well, that'll be pretty much impossible. So we're just going to apply some glue into the areas where we don't currently have any sand. And sort of spread it around. Once we've done this, we can go ahead and take our bin full of our sand, take another cup of sand, and just pour it over the part that we touched up. Then tap off our project, get rid of any excess sand, and again, you can sort of use your finger to push around the sand to either fill those holes or brush it off of your project. And your sand shape should be filled in a little bit better. At this point, we can go and touch up any other areas we want, and then our project will be done. Now, you may have noticed that there is one item in our supplies list that I did not talk about yet, and that is our hairspray. So after you've touched up your entire canvas and filled in all the spaces with sand that you want to, it should look something like this. And you may notice that even though it's perfectly dry and the glue has set, I recommend for about a day, you may still be able to tap your project and have a little bit of sand come off. And something that I found really helps sort of seal it off for not a lot of money is this inexpensive aerosol hairspray. And you can go outside to a well-ventilated area, and with an adult's help, just take this aerosol hairspray and spray down your entire project with a few coats of it. And what that'll do is that will sort of seal off your project and help your sand stick a lot better. Again, this step is optional and should only be done with adult supervision, but I think it really makes the project last a lot longer. I think that my art project turned out really great, and it reminds me of a day at the beach. But I'd like to see how your art project turned out. So if you're participating in our summer reading program using Beanstack to track your logging and activities, then definitely send us a picture using the Summer Reading Shutterbug badge and show us your art project. Also, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube for updates not only about our summer reading program, but everything else that we're doing here at the library. And as always, happy crafting, everybody! Friends, are you also participating in our summer reading program on Beanstack and using it to track your reading hours and activities? If you are, then you'll definitely want to enter the code to show that you've completed one of our Art Attack projects, and that code is Manatee. You'll see it right here on the screen, so be sure to enter it for your Beanstack badge and some prize tickets that you can enter into our drawings before August 6th.